Hey, beautiful soul. Before we jump into the episode, I want to know, did you know that I have a completely free virtual new moon circle called Co-Create every single month? This stemmed out of a constant request for a space or a church that taught so many different spiritual modalities, tools, systems, beliefs, and I didn't have any place to send them. So I created it. In Co-Create, this is the space that I want to bring to you to learn how to create a connection to yourself, your energetics, and the divine in a community that won't make you feel like a weirdo. A space where you can ask any question you want, where we get to dive into so many systems and beliefs and tools, and you get to pick and choose what feels good for you. So you can learn what it means to truly co-create with the universe, God, source, for flow, trust, and surrender, to connect with other women who are spiritually curious in a space that's safe, sacred, and inspirational. It's your space for you to find your people and lean into new spiritual practices to truly co create with the universe or God or source or whoever you feel connected to. You'll gain tools and knowledge to understand what it really means to lean into the universal laws and become magnetic, all while being held by massive feminine energy. I've been hosting these free new moon circles for almost a year now, and it's definitely one of my most sacred spaces, and it's completely free for you every single month. Diana said that she made a promise to herself that she would work on her personal development and growth journey earlier in 2024. So I reached out to her and asked her for a testimonial to share with us. And what she said was Adriana's membership community and Co-Create has accelerated that and more. I have had multiple breakthroughs from finding a new career path, improving my mental health by reducing my anxiety and depression through journaling, meditation, and breath work, improving my physical health, doing walking meditations are my jam, strengthening my marriage and relationships, improving my money mindset, and just setting up a routine that complements my design. I've learned to embrace challenges as a sign of growth. I will continuously do my best to be in harmony with myself, with this world, and the universe. I have never felt so seen, heard, safe, and supported. Her community and Co-Create has helped me connect to my true authentic self, to move with grace and intention, to embrace everyone's uniqueness. And we each have a special gift and are collectively part of this world to show and share it this way. Thank you so much, Diana, for sharing all of your reflections and how Co-Create and my community has changed your life. And now I want to share it with everyone else. The link to register is in the show notes below. Even if you register for 1 month, you will automatically be signed up to be able to join every single month for as long as you're on the list. So you don't have to repeat it every month. You will always get on the list. You will always have the Zoom link available. I love you so much. Thank you so much for being here. Now enjoy the episode. Welcome to the No BS Human Design Podcast. I'm Adriana Keefe, human design coach and motivational speaker. I went through my quarter life crisis in my 20s and had to learn how to navigate through finding what I was meant to be doing with my life. I refused to believe in the culture that said we were all meant to have the same path and boring careers until we retire and die. And along my journey, I found human design, a system that reveals your energetic blueprint, showing you where and how to access your body's consciousness and how to live as your true self. Human design changed my life, so I started sharing it with others and changing their lives, but we were all finding the same problem: a lack of resources that explain the system in easy and useful ways. So I created this show where we dive deep into the lessons of the human design system without the BS and the noise you find on the internet. Listen in for lessons in human design, finding your purpose, manifestation and spiritual practices, human design within business, and so much more. We connect with other experts in the human design and spiritual realm in a refreshingly honest way to help you find your way along your spiritual path and live this life with intention. It's time to let go of the societal expectations of being and let yourself find abundance through being uniquely you. Let's get started. Beautiful. Okay. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining in today. This is going to be probably a sassy one with a lot, four manifesting generators we have here. I probably should have thought about including me and just done three of us, but that's even better, right? More Manny Gens better. So I have on three really incredible women who I adore so, so much. And we are just going to continue this type series and talk about being manifesting generators in general. And so we'll go through, everyone will introduce themselves, and then we'll start to answer questions. You guys can watch this on YouTube so you can see who is who. And of course, all their contact info will be in the show notes below. So you can, whoever you vibe with, you want to go give them a follow, please do. I don't have to introduce myself. You guys all know me. I'd love, Saf, for you to take a moment to introduce yourself, let them know who you are, what you do, your human design, and your astrology, your top three, if you like to share that kind of thing.
All right, let's see if my ADHD Manny-Gen brain can remember all of that. I'm Safrianna Lughna, the Queer Spirit Guide. I'm a licensed trauma therapist and transformational wellness mentor based in the United States. I specialize in working with neurodivergent, queer, spicy, alternative business leaders so that they can get out of their way and heckin' slay. That's what I always like to say. So, I am so delighted to be here. I'm a 6-2 manifesting generator. I am a Gemini sun, Cancer moon, Sagittarius rising. Still getting to know my Sagittarius rising, but I think it goes hand in hand with my Manny Jenny. They like to play together. So that's me. Thanks for having me here.
Amazing. I love that you're a Gemini. I forgot you're a Gemini. That makes sense. We're both, I mean, I'm not a Gemini, but I have a Gemini stellium. So I think our bubbliness just really shows through with that. Beautiful. Lauren, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Lauren, and I hate these introductions because how long have we got to say, who I am? I'm not in a box. I'm all so many things. But from a business perspective, I am a COO and I've got an agency of online business managers, and we are building operations and systems and leading teams for our clients. And then I am a 6-2 manifesting generator with all nine centers defined. I'm emotional led, and my top three is Virgo Sun, Gemini Rising, and Cancer Moon.
You have Gemini too. All right. Now I'm very
Yeah.
curious to see if Maria also has Gemini in her. Lauren was the first person I ever met who was fully defined. And now I have since met another one, but it's very rare to see. I wonder what the
Mm.
statistics are. I don't know if Maria might know that, but Maria, moving on to you.
Hey, spoiler alert, no Gemini really in my chart except my South Node. And the statistics are very low on fully defined people. Yeah, like at minimum less than 10%. It might be more like less than 1%. So I don't have that off the top of my head right now, but quite rare, quite rare. So yeah, nice to meet you guys. I'm Maria. I am a 2-5 Manny Gen, and I'll just share my astrology since we're on that topic. I'm a Capricorn sun and stellium, Scorpio moon and stellium, and Aquarius rising. So basically, those are the only kind of placements in my chart. It's really just like 6 Capricorn, 4 Scorpio. That's pretty much the whole gist of it. And I currently live in Bali. I'm originally from Venezuela. I grew up in Texas, and now I'm in Indonesia, which is such a vibe. And I mainly focus on the gene keys, which is a sister system to the human design system, kind of born out of that transmission and a couple other transmissions. So I teach that to people that want to learn for themselves. I teach it to people that want to become readers of the system. And I also have a little software startup also based in the human design and gene keys and astrology realm that I run as well. And happy to be here.
She is just a wealth of freaking information. The stuff that you can just like spew out. I'm like, how? How do you have that all in your brain? It's bananas. Maria, were you sacral?
Thank you. No, I'm emotional
You're emotional.
definition.
Okay.
The 659 channel.
Okay. Oh, I feel like that. I feel like I get you now.
Yeah,
I
it
love
makes
that.
sense, right? It all
Yeah,
makes
right.
sense.
Staff, did you say you're sacral authority or emotional?
I am sacral.
You are sacral. Okay. All right. Good. That I didn't even think to ask that, but because I'm emotional as well. So I was like, I hope at least one of us has a little bit of a different.
You know what's really interesting is I did not know until this moment the manifesting generators could not be sacral responders. So I learned something new today. Already,
Yes,
I'm
well,
Yes.
excited.
yeah, we're all sacral responders, but we could either have emotional authority or sacral authority.
Yeah,
Mhm.
very cool.
Yes. All right. So now I would love to hear first thoughts. I'll go last, so I'll still act like I'm on the panel. I guess my words matter too, but I'll go last.
Yes.
And I want the first question to be like, how did you, when you first learned about being a manifesting generator, what was your initial reaction? Saf, let's go over to you.
Yeah, I learned about being a manifesting generator. I was in a business group and someone was teaching about it and let us all run a free chart. And I was like, what is this? Uh, so just doing the initial research and hearing about it, I was very much like, this makes so much sense because I'm not diagnosed ADHD, but I sure act like it when it comes to projects. And to come to find out, like, oh, that's actually very normal for a manifesting generator to want to have their fingers in lots of different cookie jars and like have different projects to switch between or to constantly be in this mode of creation was very, very illuminating to me. And definitely removed some of the like self judgment that I had about how I needed to bounce and have a lot of like collected projects to work on. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Amen to that. Lauren, what about you?
Yeah, so I think it was probably 4 or 5 years ago now. I think I've been in business maybe about 6 months, and somebody was looking for an online business manager at the time, and but they were building their team by design. And they was like, I'm going to need your birthday. I'm going to need all these details. And I'm like, okay, thinking she's probably going to run my astrology chart. And she came back and she was like, whoa, that is so rare. And I'm like, what's so rare? Tell me all the things. And then that was it. That just kicked off my journey. And yeah, when I went down the rabbit hole, I was like, ah. It was like relief. It was like relief when I learned about my design. I was like, okay, so that's why I'm like that. That's why I do things like this. So it was really interesting to dive into obviously the MG, multi-passionate manifesting generator. But when I then learned about having, all these centers defined, it was just like the missing puzzle from being on a journey to really learn about myself. It was just like the missing piece, and I was like, okay, I get it. And it just empowered me to be even more of that, you know.
Yeah, the empowerment piece. Was that
Mhm.
person the person that we both know in common in Australia that you're talking about? Who hired?
Yes.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Yes.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Maria, what about for you?
Yeah, I resonate so much with both of y'all's stories so far. I learned about it because I was doing TBM work, so to be magnetic, Lacey Phillips, like manifestation work back in like 2019. So yeah, like 6 years ago now. And at the time, she had you run your chart so that you could find out if you're a specific or a non-specific manifester. That is not source information for anyone's curious. That's a Genezoe interpretation of the perspective
Yeah.
arrow, which is helpful to know, and is still a valid interpretation. It can still actually be a really useful interpretation, but just so you know, it's not canon. But I ran my chart, and as probably a lot of us had the experience, we were like, what the fuck is all of this? Like when you see the charts, it's like, what am I even looking at? But I went to listen to Jenna Zoe's podcast and to hear her talk about manifesting generators. And I think, yeah, first resonating with both of you guys that I've shared so far, like to hear you're so multi-passionate and you're so multi-hyphenate, and you're here to, my favorite definition of manifesting generators is you're here to merge seemingly unrelated things and forge a new path. And like, that's the new thing that you do. And so to hear that, I was like, whoa. And she also specifically was talking about like many gens are like not really meant to like work in like office environments and like show up like very consistently like 9 to 5 or whatever. I was like, finally validation. So yeah, that was really, really, really validating for me. And I just was like hooked on human design from that moment on.
It's so funny. I mean, I resonate with all of it, and I felt like I had this other piece, and maybe you guys resonate with this too. We can open this up to you guys after, but when I first learned, I was like, that yes, this validates who I was as a child, not who I was in the moment. And that kind of sent me on this tailspin of like, wait, what does all this mean? But then I also had this moment where I stepped away from human design, from learning about it, because I was sad and disappointed and frustrated because I was like, well, how am I supposed to live in this society if I can't finish a project, if I can't do this, if I can't do that? And this is still something I'm working through, is like finding my sense of consistency, which of course changes with every season because I'm also a mom of 3 kids. So it's a lot. But did anyone else have that? And you can just like pop off mute. Did anyone else have that feeling of like, well, fuck, what do I do with this now? Like, how do I live with this?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
definitely.
Go ahead, Seth.
go for it, Seth.
I think that it was okay, well, now I know I'm actually hardwired, like inside my beingness, to be this multi-passionate thing. So that's not what dominant society wants, right? That doesn't fit the capitalistic uh, memo, really. And so it was this coming to terms with who I was and contending with that. Like, I'm never going to quote unquote fit in with what dominant society wants me to look like. So it was definitely a learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that
Did
makes
you?
so much sense. I think it really matters like how you learn about it first, because if you're learning from someone that like would speak to it in a disempowering way, that could also be a challenge. But even if it wasn't, I think it also, like if they shared in a really empowering way, I think it depends on where you're at in your life and how you take it. For me, it was kind of the opposite. I had been trying to fit into like the capitalistic thing or whatever. And at that moment, I was sort of in a tipping point of like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. Like I've always wanted to start a business. I've always wanted to work for myself. I always joke like I studied marine science. And again, this was nice to hear the validation. Like I studied marine science. I was a yoga teacher. I danced my whole life and sang and like all these like just all these mixing things together. So I studied marine science, and I always joke like you don't study marine science to have like a normal job. So like me having a normal job was never the goal. I didn't think it was entrepreneurship until later. And for me, like learning about the manifesting generator thing was one of the straws that broke the camel's back to like really allow me to fully take that leap. So for me, it had the opposite effect. It was like, oh, fucking finally, I can just like go full into this. And like, what if like I really appreciate that Jenna Zoe specifically in that one podcast episode in 2018 that I was listening to in 2019 that she talked about how they're not meant to be in offices. And I was like, that was exactly the challenge I was dealing with. And just to hear that, I was like, I'm just gonna take your word for it, lady. Fuck this. And I just like went on, like did my own thing. So I had the opposite experience, but I think your experience is quite common. I've heard it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, so interesting. And this is why when people come to me saying like, I actually don't resonate with my chart at all, I'm like, this is a journey, girl. Like, there's so many things. Like my line 4, I was like, there's no way. Now I don't believe in this anymore. This is wrong. I'm like the most line 4 you'll ever meet. So this is just it's all this shadow work, really, and the deconditioning. So starting with Saf, what shifts did you make in your life or in your business once you started aligning with your design?
Well, for one, I completely went into private practice, make my own business. Like, I'm not working with anyone as my boss anymore that's going to put rules on me other than myself. And that was really the big thing, was learning how to make new rules for myself, because I started to be able to really recognize that I constantly have new ideas coming in. I have a billion good ideas for products per day, courses, books, like so many. And I had to start saying to myself, Safrianna, you're going to have lots of good ideas tomorrow. It's okay to let all of these go. You're allowed to focus on these ideas over here because you're going to have a million more good ideas in your life and you don't have to latch onto every single one. So it actually helped me start picking a couple projects or a couple of offers instead of like trying to focus on just one, but also move away from the trying to create 40 offers or 40 different things that I'm doing at a time. Like, it helped me find my sweet spot of juggling things, but not too many things and not too few things. So it really helped me define like, okay, my business needs to be exciting. It needs to have movement and momentum and different things coming in, and things that are the same and structured and consistent, and things that are new and exciting and exploratory. So I really just it helped me find that sweet spot in my business.
Mm, yep, absolutely. Lauren, what about you?
Yes, I think when I think back through my life of like the trajectory of it and what led to one thing after another, when I reflect back, I actually realized that I was living my design.
Mm.
But at the same time, like what you guys said, it's there's this society and this expectation of, you know, this is how you have to live your life. And, you know, we did the thing, we did the career, we got the house, you know, we got the cat, we did all the things. But it got to a certain point, similar to you, Maria, is like, oh, is this it? And this is what I'm meant to be doing. And I think that coincided with my Saturn return quite nicely, which is in Sagittarius. And then I went traveling for like 18 months. And it was that journey that allowed me to slow down as a manifesting generator in my 20s, running around like a headless chicken, doing so many different things, like so many different things, but then really slowing down and being like, what is it that I actually want? And just feeling into what I really want to do. And then I'd not even found human design when I then decided to launch my own business. So this is why I'm kind of like looking at the back of my, you know, looking back through life to be like, oh, actually, I did that because I've always really followed inside what I wanted to do. And I always think back, how did I have that experience? And I think it is because I've got all them centers defined. I've not got as much, you know, outside influence that actually impacts me. But don't get me wrong, like I have been conditioned and I've deconditioned, and I still can be conditioned, but I can decondition quite quickly from learning about human design. But when I officially launched my business and then I found out about human design, it just, like I said, it's just empowered me to like be more certain about the things that I do feel inside and just go for it and just do it. And then I think one of the biggest things when I did learn about being a manifesting generator is because, again, coming back to that, having all centers defined, I would do this really random squeal, which I actually believe is my solar plexus, my sacral, and my spleen, like working together to say, you are excited about this project, you really want to work with this person. And I would get that on like discovery calls with clients, and that was my indication that, yeah, this is somebody I want to work with. This is a business that I really want to, you know, scale for them, and really leaning into that. And if I didn't get that, like that was very much an in the moment kind of feeling, but being emotional, you know, we want to give it 24 hours to for it to settle down. And usually I'm still squealing after 24 hours. But if I don't initially get that feeling, and even after 24 hours, there's still no squeal, I'm like, oh, okay, it's not quite the right fit. So that's been quite a game changer for me. And I obviously related that back to business, but I even think about it when, you know, if I'm doing anything personal, any personal projects as well, or if I'm going anywhere or anybody invites me anywhere, I use it in that sense as well.
So I'm going to ask the question that everyone wants to ask, but won't ask. Can we hear the squeal?
That's not it, but okay, I'll do the squeal. It's like...
All I can see was like your face is like so happy, but I think I know
Yeah,
exactly
it's
what
like
you're talking
that.
about. Yeah, I love that. Thank you. I actually almost feel like I might have a bit of a squeal, but I hold it in. So I'm gonna practice actually squealing. Thank
Let
you
it
for
out. Let it
that.
out.
Maria, what about for you?
That's so good. And I've just been chuckling because I like have been vocalizing this whole time, but like for the purposes of the podcast, I'm obviously muted. But like as you guys have spoken, I'm like, yeah, because I just vocalize so much too. I had a similar experience to Saf where like hearing that I was like, oh yeah, like no boss, fuck a boss, like absolutely, like yeah, like I said, it was one of the straws that broke the camel's back to start my own business. And then I think I worked like the sort of, I wouldn't say I like made changes to my business because I started my business with the context of being a manifesting generator. So I think I designed my business in certain types of ways that were sort of coming up now. One of them that was inspired by like Saf's sharing of all of her amazing business ideas is I found a way to like categorize them and like keep them. And so I have this whole, as you can imagine, 6 planets in Capricorn is no joke with the organization. I have a whole crazy like Notion system for like my whole life and my business. And I have this great like project management dashboard where I just write all of the ideas. And then I wait for the actual response. Like I actually wait until something sparks a response in me to go and then do the business. And it's really fun because I can look back and be like, oh, wow, now I'm doing this business that I had the initial idea from in 2022. And because I have everything collected there, I know when it came from and like whatever. And so that's been really nice. And it's been a way to just like not like have all the ideas, but then also not necessarily act on them immediately, but like keep them cataloged and keep them there. I'm a bit of a data hoarder. I like to keep everything sort of cataloged, and it's nice to know. So that's something I do. And then I definitely build in responding a lot in my business, in the sense that, for example, I cycle on and off of this, but I do a lot of readings, like Gene Keys readings. I did a lot of human design readings at the beginning, and it was very clear that I couldn't do readings that were pre-recorded. Like, absolutely not. I need to have the person in front of me. Like, we need to stop and have a conversation about it. I like that will create a response in me to keep going, or to add on a certain other thing. And I need also like their energy of just like, this makes so much sense or whatever, to like keep me like excited about the thing. So I do a lot of stuff live for that reason, because I just find that I really enjoy the responding of that aspect, like having the person in front of me live. There was something else that I had an idea around with responding that I'm forgetting now, but yeah, I feel like responding is quite an important thing that I keep, like, I try to keep my pulse on in my business. And I tend to try to be a little bit too initiating, like having like 53 in my chart, like the gate of beginnings. Like we just kind of tend to just start new things and not actually wait for the response. So it's something I try to really keep my finger on. And so I built that into systems and live sessions and things like that.
You would be so happy to hear that my assistant that I hired over the summer is also a Notion expert. So she got me all set up on Notion, and I think of you like every time I open it.
Amazing.
It's
Obsessed.
still new to me.
Love that
but
for you.
I love that for me too, because she's a 3/5, and she's like, I'm just going to organize all your shit. I'm like, please do it. Yes.
Incredible.
And I want to like piggyback on everything you guys are saying. I mean, most of my listeners are business owners, but some of them are not. And so when you think of like, I can't work in an office, or I can't work for anybody, that's our truth. So if you are a manifesting generator who doesn't mind having a boss, it's probably just more about like, how can you work in a way that feels good for you? Probably not sitting at a desk all day. So figuring out those little things, like how I was just talking about before we started recording, I really need to get a walking pad for my desk and a standing desk, because I just need to, like, right now, I'm like putting on lotion, I'm like touching all my crystals, like there's energy that has to get moved. So like finding ways to work, that's what it's really about. Not all of us are meant to be our own boss. There's something else I was going to say. Oh, and then, were you going to respond to that, Maria? Go ahead.
Can I? Yes.
Yeah.
Number one, I have a walking pad in my storage unit in Boston, so I can totally hook you up with a walking pad that is like in pristine condition. But second of all, I just wanted to, I really appreciate that you brought that up. And I just like to say, it's not about what you do, it's the energy with which you do it. So for us, to your point, like, it's our truth, but like, my assistant's an MG and she fucking loves it. And like, there's so many ways in which your environment can help you respond. Your boss can be someone that allows you to respond in a really great way. So I just wanted to say, it's like, just piggyback off aggressively what you're saying, because I think it's so important. Never about what you do, it's always about the energy with which you do it.
Yes, and thank you for my new walking pad. Wonderful. And the second thing I wanted to respond to was when Maria was talking about like these opportunities, these ideas that she had like way back in the day, and she just tabled them. And Saf was talking about that too, right? Because this is it's a problem until you learn how to handle it. It's like the constant pivoting, right? And what you just said, Maria, just brings me back to something I've been talking about so much lately, because now that I've been doing this for a few years now, I'm starting to see my ideas from 2, 3 years ago are coming to me now. I never had to seek them out. Keynote speaking, now I've got 3 lined up, when 2 years ago I was seeking them out and I wasn't receiving them. Same with magazines. I said I wanted to start doing some sort of like magazine article, and now I've got 2 in the past month that approached me. So like, these are the pieces that get to come together. And just because you have the idea, it could be like a download from source or a spirit guide, just be like, guess what's coming your way? And it just kind of plants that little seed, but it doesn't mean that you have to act on it right then and there. So when I was getting frustrated, I just had to stop. And at the time, of course, I had my own negative thoughts with like, oh, fuck, well, maybe I'm not meant to do this, blah, blah, blah. And then I just stopped. But look at now, years later, everything has come to me. So I'm learning it's more about just getting the seed planted and then kind of just preparing yourself. Like, I've been working with a speaking coach and doing all these other things. I'm like, I know these things will find me. These opportunities will find me just in the right timing. Okay. So the next question I want to ask, do I want to ask this one first or second? Okay. Now, since we're talking about pivoting and all the fucking ideas that we have, it's got to be even worse if you're like a pure manifesting generator with like your throat connected to your sacral. I am not, but I would love to hear. You are, Maria? Okay. So I would love to hear your perspectives on how we know when to stay dedicated to something and how you choose, like how you actually get yourself to stay dedicated. Because some of the human design advice out there doesn't really talk about this. And therefore, it leads to, especially as business owners, they're just like putting out offers everywhere and they're never really getting good at any one thing. So I think there's a level of devotion that we have to figure out, even if that consistency is a sporadic consistency. So I'd love perspectives on that. Saf?
Yeah. So for me, a lot of it has come down to how does it feel for me? Like making sure that I'm still being lit up by something, because a lot of ideas come in that don't stick. Like when I actually sit with them, I'm like, oh no, that actually sounds terrible. I don't want to do that. And because I bounce around and like to create new things, I really had to learn to figure out what feels effortless for me that can just flow and I can get into that creative space. Like, for example, I do monthly moon calls and it's the same damn structure every single time. I have used the same structure for over 2 years now, but I don't get bored with it because even though the steps are the same, every single call is different because I'm pulling in different energy, right? So that was like, I can commit to this because it's giving me enough newness, but it's also providing the structure and the depth and the consistency that other people need to be able to engage with it. And so that's, when it comes to pivoting, I'm like, is it not working? Are other people not responding to it? Does it not feel good in my body anymore? And if all of those are, yeah, no one's doing anything with it, it doesn't really feel good for me, then I'm going to pivot. Versus committing to something is really like, I'm making this decision because it feels good for me. I get that. I literally have my partners prompt me with yes or no questions to help me have an outside person determine if that is an authentic response. Because I think sometimes we can trick ourselves as manifesting generators. Like we can think a response instead of feeling a response. And really allowing myself to feel and lean into the authenticity of my response has really helped me determine, do I go down this branch or that branch? Because when we go out and we do open businesses or we get trainings or we connect with other people in business, they all give us their ideas on how to do it too. And sorting through that and coming back to, how does it feel for me? What is right for me? It's an ongoing process because we're conditioned to kind of listen to other people's authority and other people's thoughts and feelings. So yeah, just kind of coming back in and like, is this right for me? Because if it's not right for me first, it's never going to be able to be right for anybody I'm offering it to, because it's going to be out of that energetic alignment.
Mm-hmm. I second that. Lauren, what are your thoughts?
I really, really resonate with everything that Saf's just said there. Absolutely. I think I've also been conditioned based on what I've learned through human design through this as well. Like what you were saying, Maria, it's depending on how you've learned it and internalized that. So this is probably one of the biggest things that I have struggled with in terms of, oh, I'm a manifesting generator and I'm meant to pivot. And I'm like, am I not pivoting enough? And that's where I've like developed this conditioning because of that's what I'm kind of told that I'm meant to be doing. But I'm not actually one that pivots. If I do anything, I'm perfecting something, I'm making something really good quality rather than diving into like quantity of ideas and different things. I am multi-passionate. I have got a ton of things going on, but it all kind of coexists in the same way. And this is probably more related to business. Personally, you'll find me on the back of a motorbike and snowboarding down a mountain. Like that's very multi-passionate in that sense. But yeah, coming back to the pivoting thing, it's just, again, it's that feeling, like what Saf said, it's got to be a feeling for me. And the word boredom, like being bored, if I'm bored, then it's like something's got to change. it's not exciting anymore, or maybe we need to mix it up, we need to shift it up a little bit. And it's similar to what we're doing in the agency at the minute. I think the online space has drastically changed, you know, in the last like 8, 9, 10 months. So we're pivoting slightly with our services and who we're serving based on our experience and expertise. So that feels really good, but it's still in alignment with what I'm all about, what my bread and butter is, where I've kind of come from, like in financial services, and it's still all quite aligned on the same journey. It's just kind of slightly pivoting a little bit, but it's still kind of in alignment. But like I've said, it's just coming back to how that feels inside, and is it still lighting me up? I think that's the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm. Maria.
Yeah, so good. I found so many different like examples of this in my business, or like things to talk about. I think you're right that this isn't something that's super talked about, of like how do you like keep going, and like what are some strategies to, like, if you don't want to just like pivot all the time or whatever. And there are many gens. I'm curious, like, Lauren, to see your chart, and like maybe there are some gates and stuff in there that are much more focused in a particular way, but then you find your multi-passion outside of business. For me, I've been able to stay in the like Manny Gen pivot and the like, able to jump around between different things in a couple different ways. The first is I've let myself pretty much create whatever I want. And then when I look back, it all makes sense. It feels like a strong pivot, but really when I look at my business, I've only ever really created things that are related to the gene keys, or I've created things that are related to business. And the business ones are the ones that feel a little bit crazy, because it's like, okay, I'm teaching about Notion. I have a podcast, like a podcast creation course, a Canva program. I have one on launching and like hiring people and like whatever. I have all these like random business things, and those feel random. But then I look back and I'm like, they're all business skills. Like this is all very much related to like how to do business. Also, if you see like band-aids flying around, I fell off my motorbike today. So
Oh my God.
my whole hand patched up. Yeah, I tried to save my iced coffee, and unfortunately lost control of the bike, which was so dumb. But we're all good. But I just keep like catching these band-aids like flopping about, and I'm like, I just feel like I needed to address it.
I didn't even notice, to be totally honest.
Oh my God. Just now I looked to my side and it was just like flapping like about. I'm like, oh my God. Anyway.
Just skin hanging out, no problem.
That's what's happening here. Like my whole is just gone. Anyway, so I look back and things make sense. So that's like one thing that I found really interesting about that. And my takeaway from that is like if you actually just trust your responses, like it will make sense. It's all good. Even if like the making sense is like, well, of course she studied marine science and sang in the children's grand opera. Like, that's okay, but that might actually make sense. And that is my life. And so for me in business, like it's all really made sense. The other thing, there's two more things I want to say. The other thing that has been helpful is because I have so many different things going on, I can drop some of those for a time. And then I can go to this, and I can come back to that, and I can come back to this. And it almost feels like, especially my bigger like programs, they feel almost like forever unfinished, because like I can always just keep going back and like adding more stuff. And then at times it's like, oh no, this is finished. And then later I come back a year later and I'm like, we're going to add a whole new community aspect, and we're going to add like this and whatever. And so I'm able to just like cool off on that. And so that's been really helpful. Number one, like there's twofold takeaway there, which is number one, I have a lot of things going on. And so there's a lot of different places that are exciting. And secondly, I don't have to actually finish, which is nice. Like I delivered my promise. I did say like the thing that you saw on the sales page that you invested in is there, but maybe I on my own want to do more stuff, and it feels like it's still an unfinished project. And then the third thing, and this is more of a skill that any Manny Gen really needs, is to be incredible at informing. Because if you're going to pivot, you need to inform. And I'm coming off of like a year where the universe was just like, it felt like what my Saturn return should have been, but it was post my Saturn return. And like everything just like went to shit. No plan went the way that it was supposed to. I had to push back a ton of stuff, ton of programs, things that were supposed to already be done, whatever. And I was like, I need to inform. And I informed everybody that was going to be impacted. And I came up with solutions for them. And literally everyone was happy. Like everyone got what they wanted. For so many people, it was like, actually, this break's perfect. Like I needed like a better pace. Actually, anyway, it all just like worked out. And I'm so keenly aware that like the worst case scenario would have been to not say anything and like not inform and just like drop it or whatever. And so we just need to have, yes, we're here to respond, but we're also here to inform. And like it's informing. It's not asking for permission. It's not, oh, I'm so sorry this is happening. No, it's like this is happening and like this is now the solution. And with that, you can pivot. You can pivot however many times that you want, as long as you're informing properly and taking care of the people that are going to be impacted and working with them. But like, you know, the co-creation aspect of it usually feels like a small percentage of people. Mostly I'm just informing and everyone's like, yeah, great, that sounds great. Actually, that's actually better than like what I thought it would be. So as long as you are good at keeping tabs with people, yeah, like you'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. And as we're sitting here talking, I'm actually thinking about like if we need to ditch the word pivot and almost call it like building upon. Because if I look back at everything I'm
Yeah.
doing, like that's what we're all doing is we're building upon what we've already started to create as a foundation. And I went through this hard over the winter in my own mindset because I was really called to step into this priestess apprenticeship that I'm now in. And I was talking to my guides and I was like, but I don't want to leave human design. And they were all like, you're not. Like, you don't have to. This is building upon. And we're put in this society where, you know, like Catherine Zankina, Manifestation Babe, if you guys are familiar with her, she's a generator. She's been able to just focus on manifestation for her fucking life. And that's amazing. She's really good at it. And I'm like, oh, I could never. Like that. It's just like, just doing one thing so much in different ways, but like one thing. So I'm still going through this internally where I'm like, no, this is safe because this is actually just leading to an even deeper transformation for my clients. That's what I'm here to do. It's human design's the tool, but how I'm helping people, that can come from any tool in my toolbox. So I just went through that hard over the winter and like deciding whether or not to do that. And I love that you talked about the informing piece. That's something that we don't talk about a whole lot with Manny Gens. I think I just realized I wasn't even intentionally doing this, but I've been informing the past couple of weeks about how the universe has been sending me signs to focus on business owners now and to step into like business mastermind type of energetics and stuff. So I was just naturally talking about it, not holding it back. And what that's already doing is informing my audience that I'm adding this new layer of my work. So sometimes this kind of just, especially with informing, just kind of happens, but you just have to let it happen. Like it could have been really scary for me to be like, okay, I'm going to start working with business owners and like I'm feeling this pull because there's always a little bit of that imposter syndrome, but I chose to say it anyway. So your body is just like naturally trying to inform a lot of the times. I love that you brought that up. Next question that I want to move into. I think I actually kind of just answered this too, but what's one way your Manigen energy gives you an advantage in life or in business? Saf, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I think we're highly, highly, highly creative.
Mm,
And that creativity is this superpower that, okay, I can come up with probably three different solutions for any given problem if I just approach it. And so that's a huge advantage when you are constantly living in a world that's changing, right? Like, yeah, pivoting. I agree that I love that building upon because that's really what it is. It's like we have this core of who we are and then we're adding layers onto it. Um, and that is, it's a special thing to be able to lean into that and grow ourselves and grow in our business and keep layering that on. I think that is a huge advantage. And when I look at some of the other, you know, designs, I see them struggle sometimes with that problem solving, like coming up with creative solutions because they're, you know, responding in a different way. And I've never been able to, or I've never not been able to solve a problem because there's just always like three or four solutions. And then I just get to pick which one do I want to pursue or which one do I think is going to work best. So yeah, it's very dynamic. I think it creates this dynamic creativity in our lives and in our business that allows us to respond to what's coming in from the world and be able to make changes and solve those problems at the most simple level. Yeah.
that's a good point. I didn't even think about that, but I do feel that to my core. What about you, Lauren? Oh, especially as an OBM. This is probably your fucking job.
Well, exactly, yeah. They couldn't be, it couldn't align any better, really. But yeah, same with staff, really. I think when I think about when I sit in like strategic sessions with my clients and we're like really digging in, I'll always have a ton of ideas or solutions that can just they just instantly stream through. I think it's a 6447 channel. It just comes straight through for them, which I think is a huge benefit. But I think also the speed, like the way I operate and move is just so fast. And it feels good for me to be able to allow myself to like just speed through things and get things done and doing it to a good quality as well. Because I know that we can skip steps, but I feel like that really supports clients that I don't tend to work in quite reactive environments at all, because everything's always planned out and organized, and we I try and build proactive environments. But if a client really does need that additional support and they're like, what, I'm just really struggling with something today, or this is on my mind and we need to get this executed, it's like, okay, I'll just turn this around super quick and get it done. So I feel like that is a huge superpower.
Truth. Definitely feel that one. Maria.
Yeah. I mean, speed was the initial thing that came up. So Lauren already spoke to it, but yeah, I just think like, and yes, we take shortcuts and we skip the steps. Maybe we need to go back, but like we go back quickly.
Yeah, I meant to add that we go back quickly.
Yeah, like we still do it quickly, and I think that speed is really, really crazy. And I love, like, first of all, by the way, I loved building upon. Fantastic, like chef's kiss, so good. That is like a perfect. I think that's way better than pivot, actually. But I was gonna say, I love how Karen Curry, who sort of evolved the language of human design in her own way for her quantum human design, she calls manifesting generators the time benders. And so it's not just that we're fast, but like there is a way in which we sort of bend time in like kind of funny ways. It's not just linear speed. There's something else kind of interesting happening there. But if I were to say something beyond speed, another thing that came up for me was like the articulation, like just having a defined motorized throat and then blending that with like the generator magic, like that ability to blend those two things together. There's something magical and alchemical there. There's no other type that is like a blend of two other types. So I find that to be really interesting. And I can't say exactly why that's an advantage because it feels a little mystical. Obviously, like in the practical sense, is like, oh, you're creative, but you also like come up with ideas, and you also like have, like it's nice that we have regenerating energy in that sacral, and then it can also get on this like deluge of ideas like all the time. But there's something else beyond that I think is really interesting. I think we might be able to blend things in ways that other types, I mean, they have by the way, they have their gifts, as we all know. But maybe our advantage is like some sort of, like alchemy and like merging, like I was saying earlier, like merging some different paths to forge something new. That's something about that merging feels quite magical. So yeah, that's what I would say.
I like that. I was also going to mention the time benders because I mean, there's other aspects of my chart that could definitely lend to me just having a really good way of conceptualizing time. But like my husband's a generator, and in my house, the way he goes to time things and get three kids out of the house, I'm just like, why, bro? Like, no, we could do this and this and then get to this time. And like the way that I can just conceptualize how to do all the steps in a certain period of time, I always thought that was what people were supposed to be able to think like, and it turns out that they don't. So I recognize now what a gift that is to be able to really understand how to do time and all these tasks and get everything done in one. So I love that I don't follow her stuff a ton, but time benders always stuck with me because it relates so hardcore. Before we jump into the universal questions, I realize there's something that we touched on but didn't really go too in depth with, and that really is responding and the sacral response. So I just want to get anything out there that you feel like we need to share to people who are finding out their manifesting generators and working with this strategy of responding, how to have that patience because we are so quick. So like how do we have that patience and sit in the discomfort and then listen to the sacral, listen to the body. I feel like this is 12 questions in one, but I'm just going to let you guys riff on the strategy of responding. And then so Saf, it would be for you as a sacral authority, and then for the rest of us as emotional. Go ahead, Saf.
I'm so curious to hear how this differs. I love seeing how people are different, and it's just been very illuminating. But
Mhm.
yeah, I just want to start by saying, and this is a conversation Adriana and I have had before, but I suppressed my sacral responses for a very long time because of trauma and how people would respond to my sacral responses. So I had to relearn how to allow that to come out. Just for anyone who might be struggling, like you know that you have a sacral response, but it's not coming through, I really had to relearn to listen to that. But responding to that has been a lot of figuring out how to, again, get the question in front of me in a way that I get out of my head and into the felt body response. So that has been like even typing a question and sending it to somebody and saying, can you now ask me this verbally? So that I can have the opportunity to respond to another person. And that changes the responses immensely for me. And, listening to that and getting used to that was definitely a change, but it has really shifted how I'm able to listen to myself. So that response piece is really, really important because, again, as I said earlier, a lot of us have learned to listen to the outside authority instead of listening to ourselves. So we need to allow ourselves to respond to our own inner promptings, our own inner desires, and like what really is an authentic yes or no for us. And I think that that's a big struggle. But yeah, I think that about sums it up, is relearning to listen to myself and really just using the outside tools of getting help or having other people to respond to, which takes self-advocacy and informing people that that's what I need.
Mm-hmm. Way to weave informing into there. Yes. Lauren, what about you?
Oh, I think this is so exciting for anybody to play around with. Like, I think this was the first piece that I really, really dove into, and I loved playing with this. And especially when I found out my husband was a manifester, because I realized that I was actually running around in my 20s in that manifester energy. I was initiating everything. I was so in that. So when I learned about human design, to actually stop initiating so much and just respond, I mean, it changed our relationship, like honestly, and with my friends as well. It just changed relationships so much. Instead of being the one who thought I have to check in on everybody else, I have to inform everybody of everything and make sure that everybody knows what's happening. And I still do that. Like what you said, Maria, I think it's really important to keep informing, but I don't over inform anymore. Like, nobody needs to know everything. People can figure things out on their own a little bit. So I really loved playing with that, and I also did it with my husband as well. So he would ask me, what do you want for tea? And I'd be like, no, you can't ask me that. I need options. I need to answer yes or no. So we play with this now so much in terms of, being able to ask those yes or no questions. But just like what you said, Saf, I think being able to actually verbalize, like to actually speak it out and speak back to yourself. Like, I will literally sit and speak to myself now and have a conversation to see, because it sounds very different inside than what it sounds like when you're actually speaking it. So yeah, I really loved what you said about that. But I think, yeah, just really playing with that responding. I think it's really fun just to play around with, and like you say, inform those around you to be like, oh, could you rephrase that so that you could, so I can answer yes or no to it. But yeah, I think it's really interesting to have fun with it and just play with it.
Mm-hmm. Maria.
Love this conversation. No idea what the question was. I was getting spam called by the same person. When you like end the call and they're like, oh, let me just call again. It's like, are you like 5 times? Like, this is what I mean, by the way, about the Band-Aid flying around. That's why I felt like I needed to address it, because
No, I see
it's
it.
disconnecting. So anyway, do you mind repeating the question, please?
Yeah. So we were talking about, for someone who's new to learning how to respond, like to learning your strategy
Okay.
as a manager, and that sacral versus sacral and emotional authority, like what would you say there for helping them build that trust muscle and be patient?
Yeah, that's a good That's a good question for sure. And now the context of y'all's answers makes sense. I was like, I love this conversation. No idea what's happening. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow. What to say about that? My brain is going in so many different directions.
I should have asked you a yes or no
So
question.
no, it's
Yeah.
that's a fun part about being an MG is like this happens to me often. Like I'll get a question and I'm like, whoa, like there's so many things happening right
Same.
now, and then I just kind of have to find the thread, and that's
Mhm.
totally fine. So the initial thing that comes up is actually a really nice distinction on responding and like using your authority that I got from Jenna Zoe, which is the sort of like an order to go on to like follow your response depending on like the centers that are defined. So obviously if you just have your sacral defined, then like that's also your authority. And so you just get to really focus on like, does this thing light me up, give me energy, etc. And I can talk more about that in a second. But then if you also have your emotional center defined, first you get the response, that's going to kick off a wave, and then you need to ride out that emotional wave. And the like 101 on emotional waves is you don't make a decision when you're high on life thinking this is the best thing ever, and you also don't make a decision thinking, oh my god, this would be horrible, this is like worst thing ever. There's a high and a low. You want to go through both and then find like after your post crash emotional crash, you'll get to like a more neutral place, and then you want to make that decision. But then if you also like, I know me and Lauren would for sure have this, I don't know about if you Adriana, but if you also have your splenic center defined, then you want to also check in with your spleen and be like, what does my intuition say? So it's like from Jenna Zoe's perspective, she said it was like sacral response, then write out your emotional wave, and then just check in with your splenic center. And I don't think you have to do it in that order all the time necessarily. I do think you need to do response and then emotional wave, but like I feel like my spleen's talking to me all the time and giving me like little like hints here and there. So that might be a little bit more flexible depending on your experience. But I found that having that order helped me to understand the physical sensations that I was experiencing in my body a little bit more. And so that's the next thing is like, how do you, I think that the most important thing is like, how do you tie the theory of human design language to like your physical body sensations and like your lived experience? And so when someone says respond, like, can they say more about that? What does responding mean? And can you find more examples of that? So like for me, it's been like my body maybe leans forward. That was a helpful thing. Maybe I vocalize right away, like like right away. Like I made a story about this years ago, but I remember like looking at something, I was looking at an auction. I wanted to bid on some Avatar: The Last Airbender items. And when I found the one that I wanted to bid on, just like by myself, talking to myself, I was like, yep, that's the one. And it's like, okay, and I'm just vocalizing like the response immediately. So maybe you vocalize right away. The first person I learned human design from, like officially Ian Carpenter, she'd be like, where's the sparkle at? That's her response. Where's the sparkle? I'm looking for that. Maybe we could feel like butterflies in your stomach. Maybe you could feel like vertigo, like when you sort of your belly kind of lifts when you drop off like a roller coaster or whatever. Maybe it feels like that. So whatever that, yeah, like however you can identify physical sensations and then also like emotional experiences, if you have an emotional wave, like if you can tie that to like the human design language and really find your own patterning, like that's going to be the most helpful thing. And that can only come through time and repetition. And so you're not going to get it right away. No one's going to get it right away. We've all been studying this shit for years and we don't get it perfect all the time. It's all good. Like just continuing to be curious more about, this is what I always say to like in a chart reading, don't try to fit your life to the chart. Like, well, how does my thing then show up here? And like how can I do exactly what this chart is saying? It's more like, how is this chart reflecting your life back to you? So if you are like, if you're not resonating with the way that someone's describing responding, that doesn't mean that you're not someone that's here to respond. There just might be another way to describe it. And so by don't fit your life to the chart, I mean, don't try to force yourself to like that language necessarily. So use the chart as like, okay, well, what does it show up for me? And it's going to take time and repetition and patience, and hopefully it should be a fun experience. And sometimes it can be a little challenging, but you know, that's okay. We're all, life will be challenging anyway. And now you have the superpower of knowing yourself way more than like most people do. So it's a fun challenge.
I agree. It is a fun challenge. And I love how everyone mentioned the vocalness because, again, I don't think that's something that's talked about a whole lot, but that's something I've come to learn about my own design because I have my sacral is connected to my throat through my G center. So it almost feels like this claircognizance a lot of the time, just this like sacral but inner knowing. But then like it's a lot of times it's when I talk about it that the pieces all start to come together, which is interesting because it's not like we're self-projected. Like that's not by standards how we find our clarity. But this is why human design is such an experiment because it's so different for all of us. And my sacral is talking through my G and into my throat. And so it's just like this weird claircognizance kind of way that I understand things a lot of the time. I love that. All right, couple universal questions. So questions that we ask every time we, as if there's a whole team behind me, that I ask, it's my spirit guides that I ask every type and love to see how differently it's answered. Saf, how do you know when you're living in alignment with your manifesting generator energy?
When I'm enjoying myself.
Mm.
That is the key of it, right? Like knowing that I am enjoying myself. I feel it in every cell of my being. That for me, that sacral yes is vocalized, but it's also felt in my body. And when I'm actually living, you know, by the need to be creative and to have options on my table to go between, and I'm not limiting myself, I feel really good. And I just feel like I'm in alignment. It's this felt sense for me. Like misalignment for me is another kind of felt sense. Like things feel wobbly, they feel disconnected, they feel not right, versus that feeling of like, sacral response, this is good. I like this. This is juicy. When I'm living that juicy life, I know I'm in alignment with my type.
I use the word juicy a lot too. I like it. Lauren.
So this is where I think the squeal like hits another level when I thought that the squeal was like all it could be. But I've experienced quite a few times where my body, like the squeal just becomes this buzz like throughout my body. And it's again, it's when I'm excited, it's when I'm doing something that I absolutely love, or like if I'm getting ready for like a weekend away, or I'm going away for business, and I will literally be buzzing, my body will just be buzzing. And it's like that bubbly excitement that is just like running. It's like, I suppose it's quite like adrenaline. But I do experience then a crash afterwards, and I'm like, that's because I was just so high on life and just in alignment, doing everything. There was nothing that I wasn't enjoying, or I wasn't doing anything that I didn't want to do or didn't have to do, And I always try and stay away from that if I'm doing things that, we've all got different responsibilities that we have to do. But, if I'm not really enjoying it, like the out of alignment piece, if I'm feeling that frustration, then it's got to change. So, as I remember when I was buzzing one weekend and I was like, I actually can't be buzzing all the time because I would just be exhausted, like absolutely exhausted. But that is probably the biggest thing that I see that kind of comes through for me when I feel that I'm in alignment. When other people reflect back at me, that's another piece when I'm like, oh wow, yeah, do you know what? I've put myself in this space where I'm doing all these different things, and people are reflecting back saying, oh, that's amazing that you're doing that, and this looks really good, and I'd love to know more about this. I'm kind of getting that external response as well that makes me feel like, oh wow, I am actually doing all the things that I want to be doing, and other people are really responding to that. So I think that's another way that I can test the waters. Does everything feel like it is in alignment?
Satisfying.
Yes, satisfying, that's the word. Yes, that is the word.
Good word.
Yeah.
Oh, that buzz sounds so fun. I like want to experience that. That's so cool. I'm like so curious about your gene keys too.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
is she like hitting the sitting state? Like that's what it feels like.
I'll send it you all after.
Yeah, it's giving 15 because the city is fluorescence. So I feel like it's like a neon sign. That's like that buzzing of that sign. And it's like I love life and I love everything and like whatever. So I'm so curious about that. But yeah, could be acidic state for sure. So what a vibe. I feel I received the transmission of the buzz through you talking about it. So thank you. I think in a micro sense, how I know I'm like doing a thing that's in alignment is I'm like saying it out loud, like I'm vocalizing it. Like it's a I joke that I'm like the most annoying person to like go on like a beautiful nature thing with, because at every new angle of like the same thing, I'm like, wow, that's so beautiful. Whoa, that's amazing. Like, oh my, and I'm just like saying it all the time. And people are like, shut the fuck up, just do the hike. I'm like, no, but we just went up 5 feet. And so like now we have a different angle of the same tree. And I have to say again that it's so amazing. So that's like a funny thing that I do all the time, is I'm just like vocalizing it. Or like, I mean, yeah, like concerts, like just kind of those experiences. I will just talk. I will just talk like to myself, like, this is amazing. Oh my God, I cannot believe I'm here. Oh my God, this, like, I'll just say that out loud. But in life, like when it feels like not just that moment is working, but business and friends and whatever, there is this sense of like fluidity between those things, because it feels like everything's working together. And so when I transition from like one thing to another, it doesn't feel like I'm forcing myself to do a transition. It feels like I just don't have to think about life. It's just like I'm just doing it. I'm just living it. It feels kind of effortless. I'm I'm not conscious of like any sort of needing to be a certain way. I'm just like living it. And it's like, this is such a vibe. And like, I can't wait to do this. And like, I'm doing my business and like, it's working great. And I'm creating all these things. And now I get to do this. It's just like, it just feels like just effortless flow. Everything's connected. Everything's like working together. And it does feel satisfying. And the feeling of satisfaction for me, it like, and again, this is why I encourage you to find language, going back to that previous question, like, how does it feel like for you? For me, satisfaction feels like I just had the most nourishing fucking meal, like just the most nourishing fucking like 5 course, just amazing, like all the nutrients, whatever. And I'm just like, I'm nourished, like I am so satisfied. And it really is like a perfectly full in my stomach feeling, and so that's, and like a nice warm glow. So that's what it feels like for me, like on a energetic level, the feeling of satisfaction. But yeah, in my day-to-day it looks like flow, and then like vocalizing a lot in small moments.
I fully received the food analogy because I'm a
Yes.
Taurus and everything food is like so satisfying to me. And also, she does have the 15. She has it in her personality moon. So that's interesting. And in a full
There you
channel, she's
go.
got the 515.
Yeah, I've got the 515.
I
Interesting.
have the
It was
515
giving
too.
You
fluorescence.
do?
Mhm.
Nice.
Ooh, I love that for you guys. Um, I would say for me, for when I feel like I'm in alignment, for one, it feels like I have more than enough time in the day. When I'm feeling like too rushed and like I can never get to enough things, like that's when I'm in my mind and that's when I'm not being in the work or in my day and being present. But the second piece of that for me, it feels like everything is an adventure, but also keeping in mind I have the 35th gene key gate in my Jupiter, so that is adventure, but that's how I can really feel like everything just feels adventurous. And I think that's why I thrive more in the warmer months. I really need to move, honest to God, because every day feels like an adventure because I'm like out in the woods and just like Maria was saying, like, oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. Like taking a million pictures. So it just feels adventurous to me, but that could also be my 35th gate talking too. Um, okay, now something we can't forget to talk about because people tend to think that Manny Gens just never crash and burn, like have this limitless energy. How do you know that you're getting depleted, and how do you take care of yourself when you do feel that, Saf?
Yeah. So one thing, I have an open or undefined head center. So too many ideas can come in. And that can cause a lot of burnout because they're not even my ideas at that point, right? They're just kind of coming in from everywhere. So that's a sign I'm actually, or a way that I get depleted is when too many ideas come in. And I literally imagine I'm putting a lid on my head to stave that off. It is literally a very powerful visualization for me. I imagine I'm putting a lid on so that I can take that break. Because for me, when I'm depleted, I love what you just said about the not feeling like you have enough time in your day, because that's the sign I'm doing too much and I am like hemorrhaging my energy. If I start to feel like, I so wish that that myth that we just never crashed and burned because we're so creative and we have all this stuff coming in was true. Because I hear that a lot from people. They're like, wow, you produce a lot of content. You're always creating things. Yes. And if I let that go too far, I will spend my entire existence just creating things and not have that time for myself. So you know, the signs of depletion are definitely feeling frustrated for me, feeling dissatisfied, feeling like I don't have enough time. Because if I focus on what I really want to do, I absolutely always have enough time. It's the taking on everything else that's kind of the outside influence that really starts to deplete me. I don't know if that fully answered the question, but that's what came through.
Well, what do you do in those times of depletion? How do you nourish yourself?
Yeah, going and putting myself in a bubble, like getting my alone time away from other people is a big thing that I need to do. And then
The line
Lauren's
two. Yeah,
agreeing, yeah.
Lauren's like line two. Yes.
Hermit, yes, honoring my hermit has actually only recently started to come through. I used to just push past that and I didn't know it was a thing I needed to honor. So yeah, honoring the hermit. And then the other thing is to stop being in the creation flow and to go do movement. So whether that's going outside for a quick walk or dancing in my kitchen, I like to wear socks on the slippery kitchen floor and just like spin in circles to just like get back in my body and flood the excess energy out and kind of pull myself back in, so that I don't feel that depletion.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, all that somatic shit, shaking. Yeah, so good.
Mm-hmm.
Lauren.
Like jumping jacks for me. I don't know why, but as fast as I can, jumping jacks. They're just like change that energy really quickly. Yeah, so this is an interesting one for me. Like I said, in my 20s, I was just running around like a headless chicken. So it wasn't until we went traveling that I really slowed down and realized what I'd actually been putting myself through. So after that trip, when we came back, and we came back just before the pandemic, and I launched my business as just when we got back then, obviously we were forced into staying at home, which I was actually really grateful for, to just be home again after so long with the cat. It was beautiful sunshine. Again, it just being able to like relax into that. And it's really been a priority of me to not go back to, you know, reaching burnout or getting close to it. Like, it is a major priority for me to not do that. I've had clients before working with me who have, I've seen them seriously hit burnout where they can't actually work. You know, I think the word burnout does get thrown out quite a lot, but when it's serious burnout rather than maybe overwhelm, it's a completely different story. So because I've seen that, I put a lot of strategies in place. And because I don't know whether I was burnt out in my 20s, I imagine I probably did reach it, but not to a level of exhaustion what some people have. Yeah, I just make that a major priority now. But the ways that I can tell when I'm kind of getting to that point, definitely I'm in my head, very much in my head, and my split is between my ajna and my throat. So that's where I've got this disconnect between the mind and the body. So if I've got a lot of, talking that's happening, then that's a sign. I am actually physically exhausted as well, and I think that's where I've just given my energy to everything and everybody else, and not honored my line too, or given it back to myself. I love being on my own. Like, I absolutely love it. And I will have moments just sat here in the morning, having a cup of tea, journaling, and just that like sets myself up for that day. Like, I'm not one to wake up and jump straight into emails. And this has taken time because, this is society as well. So I've done a lot of research in, health and well-being and what technology, even though I am in technology, the, the impact that it can actually have. So yeah, so going back to the question, is overwhelm and I'm in my head. Physical exhaustion is when I can tell. But the strategies that I use for that, I use a ton of strategies, if I'm honest. One of the strategies that I do use is, so I tend to work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So on Thursdays, I've got a task in my project management tool that's like, set your week up for next week. A lot of people will do that on a Sunday, but I don't want to think about work on a Sunday. Like, that's my weekend time. I'm chilling. I'm not thinking about work. But I set it up on a Thursday so that when I go into work on a Monday, Monday's usually for working in my own business. Unless I've had a busy weekend, I will force rest upon myself on a Monday and Friday. And what I'm doing is I'm setting up my week of obviously all the things that I've got to do. Calls are probably already booked in. I'm planning in client work, my own business work in and around that. And then it's coming back to health, wellness and nutrition for me. So I'm looking at what the weather's going to be like for the following week. If it's going to be glorious, then I'm out cycling in the morning. If it's going to be raining and miserable, I'll pick up a class, at the gym. So I'll always plan around body movement. And I think and I always have to do it first thing in the morning. And I kind of see it as like also running off that MG energy as well. Like you would send a dog out to run off some energy. It's like, right, okay, I need to run off some energy first, because otherwise I think that can also impact us, getting to that exhaustion level. So body movement for me, planning out my meals. I also plan out my meals according to my menstrual cycle as well, and also my exercise, and also fasting. So I'm really tuned in to like maximize and optimize on the energy that I have actually got. So that week before we bleed, it's a lot softer movement. It is eating, rooted vegetables to get them carbs in. There's no fasting whatsoever in that week. So I really try to work with my energy, physically, but then also energetically as well, by kind of building these strategies and just setting up my week in advance before I go into it, and I know what I'm kind of doing then.
I talk about that getting energy out piece all the time for MGs, especially like I have a defined root center too. So I'm like, you have to run me like a dog. You have to. Maria.
That's so good. I love all these strategies, and I'm actually just coming out of burnout, Lauren. So I like appreciate all of these things coming together, and I had never hit burnout. And the initial answer that came to your question was like, when I'm like, depletion is I'm not enjoying the process. I'm not enjoying what I'm doing. Like what Saf was saying, if I'm enjoying myself, it's like I'm not enjoying what I'm doing. So if there's a lot of resistance, and it's not, especially I'm also aligned too, I'm a 2-5. So like if it's not coming easily, then it's like, then if I'm really having to like put a lot of effort, then it's not what I'm meant to be doing. And not only is like effort not what I'm meant to be doing in a lot of ways, it's also going to drain my energy, because the sacral only regenerates when it's like something you love, right? And when you're using it for things that are not enjoyable, it will deplete. And so last year, a lot of like external circumstances, just like when it rains it pours kind of thing, like every possible like thing kind of coming down, like really kind of high stakes situations. And yeah, I just had to kind of go into survival mode to like take care of all of that. And yeah, that coupled with like something that really burns me out is unfortunately the state that I'm still in, which is having to complete really old commitments, like not being able to like move on to a new thing. And because of my year last year, I'm having to now complete really old commitments. And there's a little bit more resistance there because of that, because it doesn't feel new, and it doesn't feel like, oh my God, this thing, and like I'm riding a wave and like whatever. So yeah, so right now I'm rebuilding a lot of things. I have a very small life right now. It's like I'm focused on like, I'm in my home, I create my business stuff that feels good, and I see like my one friend here. And other times that I've been in Bali before I fully moved here, like when I was not burnt out, post burnout, and had the bandwidth, like I could have a movement practice, and like I went to a lot of events and like saw a lot of people. So my answer to this question now is really, how am I getting myself back? How am I taking care of myself now? So one of the things that was really important for me to get back into creating was creating for fun. So I actually have these things next to me just conveniently. I've been doing a lot of like watercolor recently.
Wow.
Love watercolor. Been going to like watercoloring classes. I loved art all my life, and watercolor I've always been drawn to. And I was like, I need to create art for fun. Like that's actually going to help me to get into, first of all, it's just gonna be fun. Like it doesn't need to be like a capitalistic end game either. Like I just really enjoy it. It feels inspiring, but also I know that like freeing up that creative energy just for fun is gonna then allow me to also be creative when I need to be for my business, because before I'm just exploiting my creativity just for this like business gain, instead of like actually enjoying my creativity in other ways. So like that's a really nice. I'm a big like lie down, blackout, mask on, like, maybe something on in my ears, like maybe like music or yeah, music really recharges me. I will say that. Like I'll like I found this nice strategy when I would travel with people. I often travel with my family, and I have 3 brothers, and it's like 6 of us. There'll be a point in the day, hopefully we're like going to a museum, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna explore the museum by myself, and I put my headphones in and I listen to my own music, and that like recharges me, because having to be, especially as a line 2, having to be talking all day and like sonically kind of overstimulated by like a lot of conversation can be really exhausting for me. So music is really regenerative, and particularly totally lying flat, like eye mask on, just like listening to something nice, or like a frequency or like a meditation or something like that. That can be really, really, yeah, like regenerative. And yeah, shifting the energy, big movement, like what you guys said. I agree. I was going to bring up the defined root thing. So I'm glad you brought it up. But yeah, like I love like a jumping thing. So the jumping jacks was funny to me. I don't do anything nice like a jumping jack. I'm just like jumping around like a crazy person, like blasting some music or something like that. That can be really, really helpful. So music, dance, yeah, movement, walks, breathing in like fresh air, getting the sunlight on my face. That always like refreshes my energy. So those are my simple things I'm focused on at the moment. It's all been really helpful.
While I'm not happy to hear that you are in physical burnout, it is helpful right now for anyone who's listening. And I will also share that was it 2.5 years ago, I also hit burnout. Like I was in bed. I was not on my cycle, but I was hemorrhaging for days. And finally went and saw someone got tested. Turned out I had like no cortisol. Like there was no cortisol spike at all. That's why I had no energy. So that's when I started going really deep into that misconception of Manny Gens just having this limitless energy. And I was trying to figure out how I landed there. And it, just like you guys have been saying, it was the mental, it was the mind. Like my husband had lost his job and my mind was going. The anxious thoughts were just ridiculous. And eventually my body just couldn't handle it anymore. So at that point, yes, it was more about like yoga, gentle movement, really sleeping more, all of that. But then now that I'm still recovering, it's like a long, sorry, Maria, it's like a long recovery. But now that I'm mostly back to normal, you would think like going to the gym and taking an intense workout class and all of this would actually add to that burnout. But that is so helpful for us because then when we get to sit down, that buzzing, anxious energy that we have is more calm because we've relieved a lot of it. And then we can just exist in the work that we want to do. And it's so funny, you guys are all line twos and you're like, seclusion. My line four is like, I'm texting my friends when I need something like to just like get out of the house. I'm like, can we have a cuddle puddle? Like, I just need to be recharged right now. So it's so funny the difference. Oh, this was so good. It's so funny. I was like, I don't know if we're going to go the full 90 minutes. And I'm like, we could sit here and talk about this all day because we're Manny Gens for sure. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to give your advice, your input, your real life vulnerable experiences. Let's take a moment real quick to let everyone know where they can connect with you. Saf?
Yeah, so I have a Living Luna Discord server, which is our little community hub. That's if you want to come hang out, share memes, make friends, that's where you should head on over to. Otherwise, I have two websites, which are the best way to connect with me, which is literally my first name, safrianna.com, and then livinglunas.com is my other brand domain. So I would love for you to come connect and hang out with us. You can find everything on those websites.
Amazing. Lauren?
Yeah, so website is laurenleeobm.com. That's where you can get in touch with me, and Lauren Lee OBM on Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook.
Making it simple, nice and easy. Maria?
So simple. Thank you.
This was so nice. Thank you so much for having us. This was amazing. And I am everywhere at by Maria Henning. So Instagram is probably the best way to connect with me, and you can see all my stuff from there. We can hang out.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. This has been so helpful. All their info will be in the show notes so you guys can easily click and go to all their profiles, all the work that they do. They're obviously amazing. That's why I asked them to be here. So thank you guys so much for taking the time to give back to my community today.
Oh, thank you for having
so
us. It's been
much.
great.